Oh yeah, we're back with the best team in the league.
I'll stop flexing. I had a friend
With
from work. He texted me because I just mentioned to him that we were doing that we do a podcast, and he like knows a bit about Red Bull because he lives in Jersey, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Red Bull won yesterday," and I'm like, "Yeah, because they played one of the worst team in the Western Conference. They had to win."
all right, here's the deal. Here's the deal. If we looked at the standings right now at 12:24 on February 27th, are we or are we not tied for first on points?
Yeah, on points.
Okay,
You're not
okay.
on goal difference.
And are we above both Atlanta and New York City?
Yeah, the two teams that haven't played.
I don't
We
care.
got a game in
You're
hand. We got a
diving, you're
game in
diving
hand.
into specifics I did not ask for. Red Bull are clear. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players Podcast. It is season 3, episode 9. We are changing our the way we do these episodes week by week. This is going to be on a Monday episode, and basically we're just going to take 2 or 3 of the biggest headlines that came out from the week and kind of dive into them, see how they affect the league, how they affect the men's national team, maybe, just a whole bunch of general stuff instead of doing a full game by game recap. That gets a little slow, gets a little boring. This is more widespread and gives us a little bit more to talk about that isn't just this player scored and had a good day. I'm real excited for it. I don't know about you, Connor. You can share your thoughts if you'd like.
Adrenaline running through the veins. I'm ready to go.
I love it. So you can see on the board, maybe, I don't know if my handwriting is clear enough, but Kevin Thelwell has left Red Bull after 2 years and gone to the job at the best English club in the world, Everton, to be their director of sport. We'll talk about if his time was a success at Red Bull, what it means for Red Bull in general for this year and into the future, as well as what it means for the league, right? We will go in and talk about Jesse Marsch to Leeds has been confirmed by Fabrizio Romano. However, instead of talking about if he'll be successful at Leeds, we're not a Premier League podcast. I don't necessarily care if he, what happens to Leeds, but I want to talk about the fact that this means he's pretty much out for men's national team for at least the foreseeable future. What does that mean? And what does it mean for American managers in Europe in general, right? Us trying to break into that that league or that continent of football, trying to get ourselves into that world. And then lastly, Don Garber came out and made some really great comments regarding the state of the league and the state of the league address regarding Neymar and Zlatan and retirement league and all this other stuff. We'll talk about that. We'll get a feel for, what we thought about it and what that means for the league going forward. But before we do any of that, scarf of the week. What do you got, Cone?
Well, seeing as how the game's in about half an hour, brought out the Orlando one. I do hope they lose. It's just strictly a rivalry game. But since they were playing coming up very soon, I wanted to take it out. Plus, it's a nice scarf. I like it.
It is, yeah. I just ordered a new one that will be shown not on the episode 10, but probably episode 11. But I am looking forward to yet another 9 hours of sitting in the same exact spot that I did yesterday to watch every game. It was quite the day yesterday. But I've broken out just a different Red Bull scarf. As we mentioned earlier on the show, they beat I put it the wrong way around. Red Bull. They knocked off San Jose yesterday. 3-1. Goals by Patrick Klimala. Omir, the year of Omir Fernandez, and Tom Barlow. 3 different attackers, 2 of them being strikers, scored goals. But we won't dive into it because that's for a future episode. All right, let's get started. Kevin Thelwell has left the New York Red Bulls after 2 years in charge, joining in 2020 and leaving now in 2022, February, both years, to join Everton as the football director of sport. My question, and I'll let you start because I've got some numbers here and some ideas, but do you think his time at Red Bull was a success as a director of football? Do you think that he had success there?
So he joined prior to the start of the 2020 season. Is that what it is?
Right about as the 2022 season 2020 season kicked off. Yeah, February 3rd, 2020 was his first day.
Okay.
When it was made official.
Well, that was he probably had some time because it got delayed. That was the MLS is back. It's hard to say yes, seeing as how they finished in his tenure 6th and 7th. So they've been mid-table, and I don't want to fully like put the blame on him because I don't think that RBG really probably backed them as financially as they should have.
Mhm.
That being said, I think that there are still there's good talent on this team moving forward. I think some of it will be putting the pieces together and just having time to get that chemistry and have the players develop together. I'm not going to say it was a success, but I wouldn't say it was failure either. He kept Red Bull in the playoffs both seasons he was here. That's just kind of Red Bull's thing, is to just make the playoffs every year. And he did it. Maybe not so convincingly as we saw last season, but he got the job done. They've made the playoffs. They have a pretty good young core, and they do what Red Bull wants them to do. They build up young players, sell them off to Salzburg and Leipzig, and be the feeder team for the Red Bull group. So I think he did what he needed to do, but I don't think that necessarily he wasn't, he didn't win anything. So it's hard to say that. I can't really call it a success.
I am going to say that it was. I'm going to say he was successful. Not massively successful, but he joins in 2020, and he took a team that really had no identity. Jesse Marsch had left. Chris Armas came in, and there was no clear structure as to how the team was going to play, what style they were going to use, what players they were going to use. No identity at all. It was the biggest question for 2 years regarding what this team was going to be. After the change happened, he helped guide them through, find a manager in Gerard Struber, gave him time and resources, which is something we didn't get a lot of, to make his mark. So here's what I'm going to compare to, right? Here, in 2018, our 3 non-Red Bull 2 signings: Matthias Jorgensen, Andres Ivan, Mark Schakowsky. Matthias Jorgensen never played a game, or never really played at all. Andres Ivan got a year and a half, made a bunch of sub appearances and left. Mark Schakowsky was probably the best of the bunch. Then you've got 2019, Mandela Egbo, basically a Red Bull 2 player his entire time here. David Jensen wears a really cool hat, went out on loan the year after he came in. Jason Pendon, somewhere on loan, nobody knows where right now. Played a couple of games and was subpar. After he came in, 2020 on, Wiki Carmona, Tom Edwards, Caden Clark, Carlos Cornell, Andrew Gutman on loan, Drew Yearwood, Patrick Klamala, Lewis Morgan, Dylan Nealis, and right before he left, he got Luquinhas over the line. He took a team that was basically buying 3 players a year and a bunch of Red Bull 2 players, and changed their identity from being just a Red Bull 2 to top to going out and finding players like Coronel, Wiki Carmona, Caden Clark, and implementing them into our team. That is something that is massive for what Red Bull will be long-term. Because for a long time, 2018, 2019, even 2017, that was a Kaku year. Outside of him, it was all youth players, right? So it felt like they had given up on us. But Thelwell came in and was able to work with what he had and bring in players that will most likely be successful in the next few years. I mean, on that list, there are some, this list doesn't include people who were unsuccessful, right? The Yuba Diarra injury incident, for example. But that is double what they did in 2 years prior. I'm going to say it's success because it'll be a long-term success. It didn't get us a trophy, it didn't get us a title, but it got us an identity and a clearer path forward, which is what his job as director of sport is supposed to be, right?
I don't think it's fair to be able to put a label on it yet because he could bring in all these great players, but if they don't win anything, then what's the point? I think we got to wait and see, if this pans out, if these players do well here. If the goal is just to bring them on, build them up, sell them on for profit, then we don't have to necessarily look to see if Red Bull are winning trophies. But if Red Bull just consistently barely sneaks into the playoffs and then is out in one of the first few rounds of the playoffs, then what's the point? Is like you brought in all these great players, but it resulted in nothing. The point is to obviously win at the end of the day. And there's only so much that, Thelwell can do. But I just think it's tough to label his tenure as successful or not successful when we're so short into that time period.
Fair. I think, yeah, it'll definitely be easier to judge in 2-3 years. But I think just on paper and the gut feel, I'd say it was a pretty good start. Sure. But what does it mean for Red Bull? So Red Bull now have to first find somebody to fill the role. Right now, Dennis Hamlet's in charge, and Dennis Hamlet does not have a great track record of being in that role. He was kind of a fill-in last time that we had that change, and it wasn't anything special. Maybe Red Bull Global has somebody in the works, but basically it's not a great look that we are losing the guy who basically is in charge of making the entire philosophy of what the team is, recruiting players, getting the signings across the line the day before the season kicks off. Because now you're kind of up in the air of what is the path forward? Are we trying to be a feeder club? Are we trying to win titles? What is the path forward? And there's nobody there to make that call, right? Basically what the team needs to do, in my opinion, just prepare to play football, right? Don't worry about what's going on above you. Just go out and play the game. Expect minimal reinforcements until somebody gets in. Luquinhas and Edwards, when they get into the country, will be there. But you're not going to get any. I don't expect a ton of midseason signings. I don't expect a ton of reinforcements to come. Maybe outside of some Red Bull 2 players. I don't expect them to be very active in the mid-season window. It's going to take a while to get somebody who was at the level of Kevin Thelwell into that role again. But until we do, this is a team. They got to accept that. They got to be ready to move forward.
Yeah, not too much to add. That's pretty much how I think Red Bull needs to approach it. Just play. To the players, this probably shouldn't mean too much. At the end of the day, you just got to get the job done on the field.
Yeah.
If anything, if they were a fan, then they need to go prove that their signings will make the impact. So maybe motivation. I don't know. But yeah, I agree.
So my last question before we move on is, what does this mean for the league in general? We go out to England, we bring in this guy to be director of sport at one of our clubs, and he lasts 2 years and bounces. What does that mean for the league?
Maybe it's not so easy to transition from Europe to the US. I mean, we see a lot of movement from South America into the US, and for the most part, I would say it's gone pretty well. I mean, it's still a bit young, but maybe from Europe to the US is different. Maybe this isn't such an easy transition. And I know we're just talking about not necessarily players, we're just talking GMs in this case. I don't know. I don't know if it really has that big of an impact on the league. It's kind of, I mean, this is just a one sample size unless there were other instances of this. But I would say it probably doesn't have that big of an impact. But
yeah, I mean, we know that MLS is not at the level of the Premier League in terms of popularity and draw and, making people want to be there, right? We are not going to be able to convince people to stay or to leave when Premier League teams call. We just can't, not yet. If the players that we signed in that 2-year window grow into men's national team starters, sell on for successful fees to European clubs, it's only going to give a good rep to the league, right? Oh, this guy came in, left to go to a Premier League team. All the players that he brought in have now grown and are sold on. And like MLS is being looked at right now, is we are developing talent. If the players that he brought in continue in that path, then it's only going to be a good thing, right? He was always going to make his way back. He was not ready to make the full jump to MLS just yet. The roster rules are crazy. The style of play is not what he is used to. It would take probably years for him to understand all the nuances and simplicities and make the team the way that he wanted to make it. The issue is people in Red Bull don't usually get years to do things, right? Jesse Marsch gets moved as soon as he has success. Kevin Thelwell leaves after 2 years. Or if you're not doing well, Chris Armas is out after 2 years. You don't get many years to do things. I hope he does fantastically at Everton for whatever he has planned. I hope he kills it. But I don't think he was, I knew he was always going to go back. I just wish he had stayed a little bit longer. But for the league, we were never going to stop him. But he has the potential to help us grow by going into the Premier League and speaking well, putting players on loan to our teams, whatever. So hopefully we can make that connection now that he's been in both.
Yeah. Last thing I wanted to say before we move on to the next subject, I didn't think about it until you had mentioned it, but we talk about the transition a lot from like South American players or even European players coming over into MLS and just the style of play and everything. But I never really thought about the transition for like directors or general managers because of how different the league rules are. Like this is not nearly the same as making decisions at Everton, where there's no DP salary cap, tam gam kind of thing going on. Like that's certainly something where it's going to take some time to learn and get used to. Because I mean, I don't even, to be honest with you, I'd be shocked if Don Garber even knew the rules. There are just so many different nuances and rules, and if you pay attention to one MLS offseason, you'll see it. They're trading international slots. FCC makes $100K to do nothing, just to stay at number one and like what was it? I forgot what it was.
I think it was the allocation order.
Yeah, allocation order. I mean, they're trading draft picks. Draft picks don't exist over in England. I mean, there's so much to the complexity of this league that when it comes to directors, GMs, maybe even head coaches, there's a lot to learn. So it's not easy. It's super hard to transition from Europe to MLS or from anywhere to MLS in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. The transition was going to be hard, and I think he handled himself well. But the draw of being able to go back to the Premier League, not have to worry about any of that stuff, and just get players that'll fit a system he's used to seeing, we were never going to keep him. Jesse Marsch, as of tomorrow, I believe, the 28th, will be Leeds manager after Bielsa is gone. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I don't really want to talk about if he'll be successful at Leeds or not. That doesn't particularly matter to me. But what I want to know is how this affects both the men's national team as well as the idea of American managers trying to make it in Europe. So first, I will start with men's national team. A lot of people thought he was Greg's successor. He's now taken a job to be a coach in the Premier League, which means Greg is here for at least the foreseeable future. Thoughts and feelings on that?
I'll keep it straight. Jesse Marsch wasn't going to be men's national team manager for a long time. If you think that Greg is going to get sacked while he's sitting second in World Cup qualifying and has won multiple trophies already for the men's national team, you're living a pipe dream. I'm not a Greg fan. I don't think that he's the right guy to lead this next generation for the U.S. men's national team. But what he has done so far with the team would be it doesn't at all warrant him to be sacked just to bring in Jesse Marsch. I get it. Everybody wants Jesse Marsch because he had a good tenure in MLS, and he went over to Salzburg and he did what he needed to do there. And
What team was he good with at MLS?
I don't know, some energy drink company. And then he went over and got the opportunity to coach at Leipzig, which is a big deal. We don't really see that opportunity for American coaches, but he was never going to be men's national team manager for a long time. If Greg's going to get sacked, either one of two things has to happen. We have an absolute collapse and we miss the World Cup, in which case Greg's probably gone. Which obviously, if you're a USMNT fan, you could hate Greg with all your being. If you wish for the US team to miss the World Cup just so Greg gets fired, you're not a real fan.
Go to Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree there.
If hopefully Greg doesn't mess that up and we do make the World Cup, the next opportunity for him to get sacked is if we don't perform well at the World Cup, which is December 2020 or winter 2022. That's a huge period of time. Did people just expect Jesse Marsch to sit on his couch for that time and just do nothing and be like, hey, I'll just wait for Greg to get fired so I can coach him? Of course he's going to go look for a new job. Like, if you got fired from your job, you're not just going to sit on your couch and wait for the next opportunity for the next 8-10 months. So yeah, if you were hoping Jesse was going to become the next men's national team manager, you're going to have to wait for a while because it wasn't going to happen anytime soon.
I am right on board with you. There's a lot I think that we share in that mindset. We know we love numbers on this podcast.
Yes.
Greg is statistically the best manager we've had since Bruce Arena. I get he's got a better team. I get that he's playing against maybe lesser opponents, but numbers don't lie. However, it's very clear that his tactics are plain. They're boring. They take away from our ability to play, and he's not quick enough to make the changes. I think he's the right man to get us to 2022 because the U.S. men's national team goal is not to be successful at the World Cup. The U.S. men's national team goal is to go to Qatar. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's pretty, doesn't matter if it's clean, doesn't matter if we put 11 people inside the goal and just stand there for 90 minutes to get 1 point to get on the plane. That is the job. After that, no matter what happens, I think they start looking. Unless Greg takes us like the quarterfinals. But I agree. I don't think he is the guy for the golden age of our men's national team, if you want to call it that, right? However, he is the guy who gets us in. And if Jesse's available in 2023, 2024, let's get him. But Greg is a guy for the next 10 months. So I'm right on board with you there.
If Jesse's available in 2023, that's not a good sign. Maybe he shouldn't be the manager then, because that means he'll have gone back to back unsuccessful stints.
Well, this brings me to my next question. What does this mean for Americans in Europe trying to be managers? You know, he will be the first men's American manager since Bob Bradley and David Wagner. David Wagner was like a German American, right? Mm-hmm. Bob Bradley lasted like 2 months. 2 months.
That was wild. That was so unfair to him, but that's a whole other story.
And that's my point. Going back to your question, if he's available in 2023, is it really him, or is it?
It could be. It could be.
Is it English? Or is it English? The people in charge who are from an English descent, who think that the Americans can't be successful no matter what they do, and give him zero leadway. And if he loses a single game, he's out. So I wouldn't necessarily say if Jesse's available in 2023, let's be afraid. But Marsch was great at Salzburg, and he was set up for failure in Leipzig. Everybody knew it. They sold all their best players, brought absolutely nobody in, and they were just like, okay, go beat Bayern. Of course, he was going to get killed.
Yeah, but why is the replacement doing so much better though? It's the same team.
There was I gotta find the article. There was an article out there that basically was like nobody in Red Bull Global expected Jesse Marsch to succeed. They basically just said go out and do your best and wait for this other guy to come in. I don't know if it's a tactics change. Like they wanted him to play his style. I don't know if I haven't watched Leipzig, but I don't know if it's a tactic change or whatever, but there is an article that I read a couple months ago that basically said Marsch was set up for failure and everybody knew it. Even he said it. And, you know, it was whatever when he left. But now he's got the chance to take a team that's already set up for a high press system, right, in the Bielsa world, and work to impose that system on this team. In terms of what it means for Americans, if he finds success, this is groundbreaking. We've never had a successful American manager in the Premier League. This will be a pathway for many, many, many American managers, not necessarily to make it in the Premier League, but to work their way through, much like players do, right? Start in League 2, League 1, get their team to promotion, really show the world that Americans are not just a bunch of dump and chase, be really physical managers, and that we know the game. If he doesn't, not much changes, I don't think. But he has the potential to pave the way for American coaches everywhere to be successful in the English world.
I think this stint with Leeds is going to be super important from a men's national team perspective to see if Marsch's tactics can work in Europe. Because as of right now, I'm not convinced. I understand that he was set up for failure at Leipzig, but Salzburg was also just a given. Like you're going to win the league every single season. You have infinitely more resources than every other team. And I would say, you know, he had Erling Haaland on his team, and
literally
the person following him is already like on pace to set like Austrian Bundesliga records, whereas Jesse was kind of getting like 7-point leads on the regular season. I don't exactly know the Austrian Bundesliga.
Your knowledge of the Austrian league is not as high as it should be, and that's disappointing, Connor.
I apologize. I don't know exactly how it works, but I would say I'd want to see how he does here with Leeds. It's going to be telling to see because all of our players now in the men's national team pool are playing in Europe. They're getting European experience. They're used to European play styles. I think we need a coach that matches that. Problem is Greg has an MLS play style mindset, which is why guys like Kellen Acosta, Sebastian Jet, Matt Turner, that's why they do well in these systems because they're familiar with it. But someone like Pulisic, Weston McKennie, Gio Reyna, they don't know MLS play style. They're out playing with Dortmund and Chelsea and Juventus. I mean, I think we need a coach that matches that play style. So that's why I think the experience is good for Jesse, but I want to see if his tactics still have too much MLS influence in them just from a USMNT perspective.
No, I think that's spot on, right? The reason why you don't see those players being as successful as they probably should be is because either their knowledge is higher than Greg's in terms of the nuances, right? Or Greg is putting them in a system that takes away from their ability to exploit said nuances, right? I think that's a really great spot. Very nice, Connor.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I hate these episodes. I am complimenting you way too much. There is not enough
I like it.
toxicity in these.
I
There's
like it.
not enough toxicity in these episodes. I am
Well,
not.
we need to find more polarizing conversation where we debate. We need to have differing opinions so we could yell at each other.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe this. I doubt it, but we'll move
No,
into
we're
Don
definitely gonna
Garber.
have the same opinion on this one. But this
Don
was
is out
fun.
of his mind. How dare he say such things? In Don Garber's State of the League address a couple of weeks ago, he did something I was not expecting out of him, but addressed this worldwide notion that MLS is a retirement league, and it came off of the back of one Brazilian guy, Neymar.
Neymar. I like that. Why is it?
Neymar
What's with the knee names? We got Neymar and Gleesneys.
Gleesneys.
Are they related?
They gotta be. They gotta be like best friends. Neymar comes out and says that he wants to go to MLS simply because he can have a 3-month long vacation. Now, I don't know if like people just don't get it or if it was a joke. NYCFC had 6 weeks off this year. Unless he plans on going to play for Cincinnati, where his season
That's
ends.
a 12-month vacation.
I would say where his season ends after the first week. This guy's not getting a vacation. And I'll go into this a little bit more, but these are the type of players we don't want here. The people who think that it's going to be a walk in the park, the people who think they're coming just to collect a paycheck. I think it was Higuain. Yeah, Gonzalo Higuain thought that he was just going to show up, play at Miami, collect a paycheck, and call it a day. And he came out like at the end of his first year and was like, "This is the toughest league in terms of physicality and you know work rate and all this other stuff that I've ever played in. You're not going to just come here and get a check; they're going to work you." To follow that up, a lot of people take that thing that Neymar says and follow it up with, "Well, MLS is a retirement league." Now, this is what Don Garber had to say, and I'm going to pass it on to you after I say this. When Zlatan left MLS, nobody said he went to go retire in Italy. Frankly, I was insulted by that, because if Zlatan came to us at the same age where he went back to Milan, it would have been seen as a retirement move on his part. He worked very, very hard in MLS, and he's working very, very hard in Serie A. I'm not quite sure why we're viewed differently, but that is what it is. So I want to know what you think about that statement and kind of what you think about the whole Neymar situation as well.
I was so excited to talk about this one. I don't agree with it, but I absolutely understand why Europe views us this way. Is because if you look back 5-6 years ago, or even like farther back, just if you take 5-6 years ago as like a starting point and then just go like further back into our history, yeah, this league was absolutely a retirement league. Frank
100%.
Lampard, Andrea Pirlo, Steven Gerrard. I mean, it was terrible. They were horrible, uninspiring signings where they were just grabbing big names that were literally looking for retirement. So yeah, that I completely understand. Like that was a valid opinion to have 5-6 years ago. The issue is it's not 5-6 years ago anymore. I understand it's a short period of time, but this league has changed tremendously. It is complete opposite now. This league is a huge feeder league for a lot of European leagues at this point. There's a lot of really good young talent coming through, whether it's young like American homegrowns or South American budding superstars that are coming here, getting some more recognition and moving on to Europe, just like Miguel Almiron did. I absolutely agree with every word that Donnie Garber has said, or Daddy Garber.
Daddy Donnie Garber.
Daddy Donnie Garber. Yeah, why would Zlatan's move to MLS originally? I guarantee you a lot of people were looking at it and be like, yeah, that's a retirement move. But then he goes back to Serie A and it's like, oh, Zlatan's just built different. Like he's always in his prime. Why is it different? Because you had that mindset from a few years ago. It's not how it works here anymore. Maybe you should look into it a little bit more. And I wanted to mention one thing because I'm a big fan of this YouTube channel. I don't know if you watch it either. It's called HITC Sport. They got this. They got a guy on there. He's known as the Irish guy. He made a video on this whole thing where he was talking about Neymar's comments, and and Don Garber's comments about Neymar. And he totally had that like Euro snob mindset of like, oh, MLS is a retirement league. They should be thrilled that Neymar wants to go there. And I get it. Neymar's a huge name, would bring in tons of money for Donny Garber, and would be miles ahead of everybody in terms of talent. But the way Neymar's comments are, he's absolutely going to come here and not care. He's just going to fool around, get his big brand deals, and just collect a paycheck. And he doesn't care what he does on the field. He might be out half the time injured. Who knows? So when I watched that video, I was, I'm not going to say I was triggered, but I was a little upset. I was like,
that Connor's in the comments, all caps.
Yeah, all caps. But it just, that's not the way the league is anymore. And he was mentioning exactly what I was just saying. He mentioned the signings of Pirlo, Lampard, Gerrard when they were coming here 5-6 years ago. But the league is not like that anymore. This league is exciting. It's got a ton of young talent that's going to be moving on to Europe very soon. And give it like 3 or 4 more years. And I think Europe will start to realize that this isn't a retirement league. We've created Alphonso Davies for Europe. There are guys that didn't necessarily play games in MLS, but were at academies like Gio Reyna and Weston McKennie. There's a lot of talent coming from MLS. So to call it a retirement home or retirement league is completely off base.
We got Connor heated. This is the first time I've seen Connor so animated about something like this. This is awesome.
I just think it would be like me trying to make comments on like the Danish league. Like, I don't know anything about the Danish league. Why would I know anything about it? Like, I don't follow it. I don't listen to like podcasts on it. I don't even know like who's leading in the table. But people in Europe seem to have a lot of really strong opinions on MLS without having any knowledge on the league at all. They probably can't even name half the teams in this league.
Correct. Now, this whole thing that you're doing, this energy that you're giving off is exactly what we need to grow the league and beat down this narrative of being a retirement league or an easy paycheck league, right?
Yeah.
If tons of players came into that mindset, this whole mindset, and then go public and talk about how much work it is, like Higuain, people need to listen to it. If our commissioner comes out and is making this comment, then everybody else should be behind him. He calls out some of the biggest players in the world, Neymar, who
he's massive.
Yeah. And he's now on my bad list, but the guy will sell tickets and jerseys like nobody's business, right? But going back to this Zlatan comment, if you're going to call this a retirement league, then every other league needs to get the same treatment, right? Can you name the one league that has an average age less than MLS right now?
Total. One league with average age less than MLS.
European league.
I would think maybe the Netherlands, the Eredivisie.
Eredivisie, correct. Every other team is minimum 2 to 3 years above us, except for Ligue 1, which is 20. I think we're 24.6. I think Ligue 1 is 25.6, as well as maybe Serie A. I did the math.
I thought Serie A would be very old.
Actually, do I still have it up? Maybe I still have it up.
I would love to hear.
I do. I have it up.
What's the Premier League comparison?
Okay, so MLS 25.4, Premier League 27.3.
Oh my goodness! What is this? Do you need canes over there in England? Do you need walking canes?
Bundesliga 25.6. So they're pretty much right up with us, which makes sense because we're selling them all of our players. La Liga 27.8. They're older than the Prem. Ligue 1 25.6. They're right with us. Serie A 26.8. Liga NOS 25.9. And Eredivisie 24.8. So of your top 7 European leagues, one of them has an average age less. But because we take one, and this is what I have in my notes, right? Every time we take one person who thinks they're going to come in and cruise to retirement on an expansion team that needs somebody to sell jerseys, we make at least 2 or 3 players that are heading to Europe that they're trying to buy and sell for a profit. But nobody looks at that because it beats down their narrative.
Yeah. I mean, you want to go look at and talk about MLS being a retirement league. They just sold 2 of their players to Arsenal. Matt Turner and Aaron Austin Trusty going to Arsenal. Are we sending our grandpas over there? Allegedly. Arsenal must be out of their minds. They're buying a bunch of old players.
Well, I'm telling you, the more that we continue to sell to these teams, the less that you're going to see this whole, I'm hoping the less you're going to see this retirement league mindset go.
It's gonna shift though. MLS will always get beaten down no matter what. It's not going to be a retirement home at that point. It's going to be MLS can't produce good talent because they're going to go over like Turner and Trusty. They're never going to play. It's going to be another Miguel Almiron, which Miggy was just, I don't think he was ever used correctly at Newcastle. So of course his tenure was never like sparkling. So yeah, I think that's the mindset that it's going to happen. It's going to change from retirement league to they just suck. That's my guess. But I think that there will always be people looking to just smack on MLS because it's easy for them.
Yeah, it is because they've grown up with a narrative of retirement league, bad level of play, and not fun.
Mm-hmm.
2 of those things are gone. It's a hell of a lot of fun, and it's not a retirement league. Level of play is not there, but that's because all of our best players are being sold at 18. I guarantee you, if we went into transfer market and found a list of all the players that played or came from an MLS academy and brought them all back here, our league would be consistent with what is going on over there.
I would say we would be almost borderline probably a top 10 European league if we had all the talent.
Now, that being said, the reason we can't do that is because we need the money, right? Because we don't have the infrastructure right now. And this is a whole nother conversation. We don't have the infrastructure right now to sustain a league without selling players on for profit, right? I think I saw when I was doing my research that the Premier League is operating at like $1 billion debt or $100 million, some massive deficit. Like they are just siphoning money, but they can because they're massive. That's what happened when you start your league in 1894 or whatever league you started at, right? We started in 1996.
Yeah, so recently.
We're not even 30 years old. Relax, people. It will get there, but it's not going to be for a while. It's not going to be tomorrow.
If we were to compare leagues at what, I don't know how old MLS is now. I know we just recently were 25. Let's just say anywhere between 25 and 30.
Right. We're like 27. This is the 27th season. We just picked up.
If we were to take every other league and compare them at their 27th season, MLS would arguably be the best league
100%
at 27.
I'm telling you, if I went back and found some recorded highlights of the Premier League in year 27 or whatever it was called, the English Champion League or whatever, in their 27th year, you are laughing at how awfully bad it is. But that's the Eurosnob mentality, right? One more question before I know, because we could talk about this all day long.
Oh yeah, we could have had a whole episode just on
this. We could have just on this. We definitely could have. But my final question before we wrap this up: Neymar runs out of contract at age 33. You want him? You take him?
As of right now, I'd say no. I get that he's super talented. I would love to see Neymar play here, but I just don't think he's going to care to play here. He's just going to come in, collect his paycheck, and just not care on the field. I can't see him being motivated to play well here. I think he just wants his brand deals. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I don't know if you feel differently.
No, I could go my entire life without seeing Neymar put on a kit in MLS, completely content and would feel nothing.
Yeah.
10 years ago, 35-year-old Neymar, hooked my veins.
Yeah.
We're at a point we don't need him to be viewed in this global stage. Teams are looking at us without having the need of a Neymar or anything like that, right? But nothing would be better than if he did come here, thought he was going to dance around on the ball all day, and
He was
Walker's
just a massive
folds him
flop.
in half.
Yeah,
Just right in half. It would, oh man, it'd be so great.
it would. It would feel good as an MLS.
It
Not that
really would.
I wouldn't obviously want to see like Neymar get injured, but I'd want to see him have
Well, no,
that
because that's the
mentality of
thing,
like
right?
MLS is so easy, and then he comes in and it's
And gets
a
halved.
train wreck for him.
Or even like just some college kid comes out and is like, oh my God, this is Neymar. I'm gonna make a tackle and just folds him in half. Like, it'd be great. But that's the thing. Like, I feel like if we took everybody who thought that this league was a joke, like, and they could just show up, put them on a field, and just let them get run over by like Aaron Long and Walker Zimmerman for 30 minutes, they'd change their mind.
That's the thing. MLS defenders, they don't know how to defend. We talked about the quality of play. It's not there. So what do they do to play defense? They just play physical. They'll just run you over. Yeah, exactly. And MLS refs will allow it.
Yeah, they really will.
Sometimes. I feel like there is a crazy amount of red cards in this league compared to like the Premier League.
Yeah, they take VAR review pretty seriously. So I'll give them that.
We could have a whole other episode on VAR, but I think MLS does VAR very well.
MLS does VAR better than anybody else, and we will have another episode on that. I'm sure we will.
Yeah, maybe if there's a slow week in headlines, maybe.
All right, you got anything else you want to add on to it?
No, this is a good episode. I'm glad we ended on.
This was a lot of fun. I hope I hope we keep on with this. All right, well then that's it. That is season 3, episode 9. Let us know your thoughts. We're gonna share these clips. I really want to know what everybody else is thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe not. No, I want the Euro snobs. I want the Euro snobs in my comments.
Yeah, all opinions.
Like, I want them all. Your every opinion is valid, incorrect or not.
Yeah, that's why we do predictions, so you can hear Andrew's incorrect opinions.
All right, but we will be back on Wednesday with season 3, episode 10. Our week 1 recap. Players who increase their stock, players who decrease their stock, coaches on the hot seat, and star of the week and flop of the week. So if you did really well, your team gets featured. If you did really not well, your team gets featured. If you were bang average,
probably not featured.
See you next week.
Try again.
We're not going to go through every game. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but we will go on out and highlight some of the best and the worst of the worst. And then what's under worst of the worst is FC Cincinnati. So we'll talk about them all. But until then, we will see you next time on the next episode of the Designated Players Podcast. See ya.